asks no questions, the love that stands the test, that lays upon the altar the dearest and the best, the love that never falters, the love that pays the price, the love that makes undaunted the final sacrifice. And there's another country I've heard of long ago, most dear to them that love her, most great to them that know. We may not count their armies, we may not see her king. Her fortress is a faithful heart, her pride is suffering, and soul by soul and silently her shining bounds increase, and her ways are ways of gentleness, and all her paths are peace.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Surrey. Welcome to Dorking, in the heart of the Surrey Hills. I'm just going to hand over very briefly to Jeff Cox, who's put a tremendous amount of work in organising this hall for us. He's going to give you the basic housekeeping.
Okay, can everybody hear? We're just also doing a bit of a sound check.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, was that everybody okay at the back? Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, yeah, my name's Jeff Cox. I'm the UKIP Mole Valley and Epsom Secretary. I'm also one of the organisers here tonight. Just a few bits of housekeeping. Firstly, obviously, don't forget to turn your phones off. I'll probably have to ask several times about that. And the other thing is, please no photos, no holding up your phones and stuff to take snaps in here. Everything's being videoed, so it will be up on YouTube in a day or two, and I'm pretty sure there'll be some stills if you want them for your album for later. Fire escape, obviously it's pretty full in here, so just want to make sure everybody understands about the fires. Fire escape, the main exit at the back and turn right out of the way you all came in. Alternatively, you can go straight through this door here and immediately left. We hope that we can bust open that door and we can all escape out there, because every vote is vital, as we know. Now, one thing, if I could just ask the people in the last 5 or 6 or 7 rows, if you've got a seat on the wall side of you, could you just move across? Because I've got a feeling we'll have a few, half dozen of people late in here, and if we can just sneak them in at the back and sit them in the aisle seats, that would be great. So I don't know if you've got a few people there who can move across. I noticed a few when I came in. If you could move across, that would be great. Just if it's an empty seat on there, if you can move across, that's great. Yeah, just a few people can get in. We've had a few people who haven't booked. They're waiting at the back, so hopefully we'll be able to find a seat for them in a minute when the candidates come in. Okay, these 3 are taken here. All right, I've got one further thing to say. You know, politics is a nasty business sometimes. there's plenty of sniping going on from other parties, from the media, from everybody else, and of course from within our own party. There's a little bit of sniping, and within the Conservative Party, within Labour, no one differs. But I don't know if you've all witnessed the same thing as I have on question time, increasing hostility from the audience, and I hope that we're not going to see any of that here today. And I, for one, am going to back whoever emerges as the leader of UKIP. I don't care who it is, but I hope we're all going to get behind whatever candidate stands here, and there's going to be no after-election shenanigans. So with that in mind, I'll hand back to Rayna.
Right, everybody, I'm Helena Windsor. I'm chairman of Surrey. I'm also chairman of the East Surrey branch. And I've got a few thank yous to say. First of all, I would like to thank all of you who've come from all over the South East, including, I understand, the Isle of Wight. The Isle of Wight contingent, can I see your hands? Congratulations for coming so far. I'm glad you took note what was said about cameras. Actually, I'm quite happy if when we've got the candidates in and they're sitting here, you want to take a quick shot, briefly, but we are fully videoed. As I say, you'll be able to watch it later, and what we can't have is anything getting in the way of our filming. So I'm sure you understand. And I'm glad I've got such a full hall. This is an important election. Very, very important election, and I need to thank the Surrey committee team. I couldn't have done it without Toby Micklethwaite, without Jeff Cox. I definitely couldn't have done it without Gerald Gravitt, who's organised all the PA and sound and filming for us. Obviously couldn't do it without all of yours. Roger Bird's going to do the questions for me. I've had Janet and my husband David working hard in the refreshments. Very generous donation from David Payne. So a big thank you to everybody who's made this happen. Now, before we let the candidates loose on the room, your agent? What's your
Thank you very much. But can I just go?
Piers.
So, Piers Walker, I'm the returning officer for the election. I come from Kent, and I hope in Kent we'll get a hustings as good as this. This must be the biggest hustings so far of all the hustings we've had up and down the country. The only announcement I want to make, and the only reason I'm here, of course, is just to keep an eye on the hustings I occasionally do, just to make sure that everyone's behaved themselves, which they always do, so little point me being here. But the one announcement to make is that you will all have known that we had 11 candidates to begin with in this competition. One dropped out, David Allen, who's here tonight, dropped out because he said there were too many and it would be bad to have too many on the ballot paper. And tonight, two more dropped out. David Coburn is not standing, Marion Mason is not standing, and to keep you all in suspense of the candidates you have here tonight, one of them, as I understand, is about to make an announcement that that person, he or she, is not going to stand as well. So it may be worth listening to their opening speeches to find out who that is. But I'm very grateful for you to be here. Magnificent turnout, and I hope we have some more of them. Thank you.
And now, cue the music. Take it away. The moment you've all been waiting for. Please welcome your candidates. The audience, wonderful turnout we've got, they've all been told to behave themselves, and I know they will. And same rules apply to you guys. Constructive criticism is fine, but I do not expect unruly behaviour, and I'm sure I won't get it. I'm sure you're all going to be good friends, aren't you? I think you're familiar with the tonight, and I'll just tell the audience, instead of the normal sort of opening statement, because originally I thought I was going to have 10 candidates, they have got 5 key questions, some of which you've already put in an email, about the restructuring UKIP and about the future, what their future vision is, where they see UKIP going, and that's in their 5-minute opening address. After that, we'll have question and answer. What I'm looking for when we do something where we can answer with yes, no, is I'll probably just ask you for a show of hands, because it's a simple yes, no. The other questions, you'll get up to a minute, and you will all have a chance to say something, but if actually you all agree, for whatever reason, when it gets to you, I'm quite happy for you to say, oh, it's all right, I agree with Anne-Marie, or I agree with Jane, okay? So, originally, my plan was to do it in alphabetical order, and had it all nicely laid out. At the moment, we have Aidan Powsland is on his way, he's stuck in traffic. So we're letting him go at the end. And Ben is going to kick the proceedings off. After that, because my name is Windsor, I know what it's like, always being the last one on the alphabet, so I'm going to reverse it. And instead of starting right down the end, we're going to start with Peter. He's going to kick off with a 5-minute speech. I also have to let you know that John Rees-Evans unfortunately can't be with us tonight. Unfortunately, he's lost his father, and Andrew Price is going to stand in, give his statement. He may offer some comment or answer some of the yes/no questions, but we're hoping that John will put them all on UKIP Daily, put his own personal responses all on UKIP Daily, which if you don't look at it now, I urge you to look at regularly. And at the end, he'll do the summing up on why you should vote for John Rees-Evans. Okay, so thank you very much. Ben, please start us.
Right, good evening ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? Yes. That's a good start, okay, right. I'm going to be giving a very different speech to you this evening, and I will tell you why. But first off, if you don't know me, my name is Ben Walker, okay? I am from the grassroots, I am one of you. I started my own branch in 2011, and I've sort of worked on from there. You know, in my mind, what UKIP is all about is you, the beating heart of the party, the membership itself. And I think in recent times, we have lost that message. And that's to our detriment. We need to be a party that is exactly about just that, about the grassroots. A party that's about winning town council seats, district seats, county seats, and from that, building a stable platform to then win MP seats and retain them, keep them. That's where we need to be. But the truth is, we cannot do that, and we haven't been able to do that, whilst our party is in the state that it is. You know, all we tend to see from the top are glossy emails saying how wonderful and how hard-working the management of this party are, and how they're working in the interests of us. And then they'll ask you for some more money. The truth is, this can't go on. The top doesn't work for us anymore, okay? The current chair of the party needs to go. The NEC needs to be reformed. It needs regional representation. The structures that exist within UKIP as they stand now are fine. We don't need to get rid of them. What we actually need to do is support them. And that's not happening. What you're seeing at the moment is stealth tactics from the top. They want to change the name. They want to change the brand. They want to get rid of the regional setup. All of this is wrong, and all of this needs to stop. And it needs to stop now. Now, my main platform throughout this whole election so far has been one of change. It's about dealing with the issues that we have internally first, before we go out and try to appeal once again to the electorate. You know, we have to fix our own house. At the moment, and for a considerable amount of time now, we have had no message, no strategy, no vision. We cannot expect you, me, to go out, knock doors, and sell these messages of nothing to the electorate and expect to get a different result. It's not happening. So like I say, I want to see UKIP turned upside down. We don't need to concentrate on the top, we need to concentrate on the bottom and work up. That's where we need to be. We need to be a serious political party that empowers its membership. And there's different ways we can do that. In my mind, like I said, we change the NEC. We rewrite the constitution. We start to support the branch structure. We empower you, the membership. We support our candidates. All of this currently does not happen. One of the reasons why we are losing support isn't just about our terrible performance in the last election. It's because we don't know what we are. We don't know what we're selling, and nobody understands what we're trying to do anymore. And we must fix that vision. So I want to see a professional policy unit at the heart of UKIP. One that's driving, testing, costing policy, moving it forward into a rolling manifesto, a vision that runs right throughout the year. Everybody knows where we stand. And you, the membership, are able to feed your ideas into that. We listen to you again. That's the sort of UKIP that I want to see. So, you can check all this out on my website, because I can't talk all night about this and explain it all to you. But the truth is, we now face a very, very difficult situation within this election itself. We have a huge amount of candidates. We have two very distinct sides of the argument. So, myself, I've been wrestling with this for some time. And I'm going to stand down. I'm going to bow out of this fight. But I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you what I'm doing. I am bowing out, but I'll tell you why I'm going to bow out for the right reasons, okay? I'm bowing out for somebody that I believe can take this party forward at this time. And I'm not the only one. What you're going to see tonight and in the coming days is a strong, unified team built from many of the people in this leadership election coming behind one person, working as a team in the interest of the party, which isn't been happening. It hasn't been happening. And that's what I'm suggesting is happening now, okay? So I'm coming behind and falling in line with Jane. I think Jane is the woman that can drive this party forward in the medium term now. What that means is that, where do I go? What am I going to do? Well, I'm working with Jane. I'm part of the team. As is David Coburn. As is Marilyn Manson. Matt Mason, sorry, Marilyn, sorry. I'm trying to be serious. Pop star, it was in my mind. Anyway, apologies. These people are falling behind Jane because we believe that she is the person that can drive this forward. Okay? If elected, Jane will appoint me as her chairman. So I have the remit to talk and do everything that I've been going on about right from day one, to make sure that the change that UKIP so desperately needs happens. Which is why I'm saying to you, if you were minded to support me, if you believed in the change that I was talking about, then back Jane, because that change is still going to happen. So all I can say now really is thank you very much. Thank you for your support throughout the whole process. I'm really quite grateful and humbled that I've managed to come from zero to where I am now, to be honest with you. That's absolutely brilliant, and like I say, thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking to you outside of this event. Thank you.
Right, okay then. So, Peter.
Right.
I'll give you 30 seconds on the little bell there.
Okay.
Oh, gosh, come on, Marion. Oh, bless you. So, your time, Peter, starts now.
Well, that was a bit of a bombshell, but let's hope we can carry on the way we started off. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been deputy leader now since last November, but I've been a spokesman in the party for 5 years, which is the amount of time actually I've been in the party. It's very, very useful that you give us 5 points to go in so that we don't repeat ourselves. But first of all, I would say that when it comes to the party, there is absolutely no question that there is a real sense of decay, that people really do feel that it is absolutely not fit for purpose at the moment. So we have to address that. And I think that the crucial thing, first of all, what I would say to you is that, first of all, under my leadership, there would be no more standing aside of candidates in election. I think that cost us possibly a possible 2 million votes. That will never happen again, because it took us below that million mark, and that's a psychologically terribly important mark to which you should really try to get. And it also affects our status as whether we're a minor or a majority party. Also, I would say this, that there has got to be a restored link between the branches and the central party. And this brings me on to my second point, which is that we have an incredibly hostile media. So I would set up straight away a media unit, a new media unit, which would look at ways in which we start our own platforms. I don't just mean social networks like Twitter and all this, that's fine. But we need our own, we need to take a leaf out of Trump's book, we need to take a leaf out of what they have done over in Europe and actually start our own shows where we actually talk to each other in the party as well as present to people outside. That's what we need to do. That is crucial. All of those things need money. I don't believe in having a fundraiser because I think that the main man or woman who goes to funders has got to be the one, they always want to see the leader and they're the one who has to get the money and raise the money. I've done a lot of fundraising in my life, my own business, I've had to sell visions to people. And this is a case where one is going to be having to sell a vision to possible funders. We've got 2 funders at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, they've been very, very loyal. But we need more, we need to go further afield. I'd say we even have to look abroad, actually, to people who trust in us as a party and our vision. So I would say to you, what is that vision? That's one of the questions asked. And I would say to you, what is incredibly important is that Brexit, of course, which we're seeing a slow betrayal of in front of our very eyes, we have actually got to be the saviours of our democracy. It's a big thing. We started out thinking with a big idea, but to get out of the EU. That is our great strength. We have got to continue to think big ideas. We've got to save our democracy. We are about to become a nation state again, not just in name, but actually in practice. So what I want to do is say that our mission will be to reverse 50 years of attacks on Britain, on its traditions, on its values, on its culture, which has gone on, I'd say, for far too long and ends up with people basically wanting to take down Nelson's column because it is the wrong history. I am hugely, hugely proud of our history. It's something I've talked about in UKIP for a long time. And I think that our values particularly are seriously under attack, and they will continue to be so in the coming years. In fact, I think it will intensify. So we have one law. We have one law for all. No competing legal systems. That is what our mission has got to be, to uphold British law. We have got to uphold all of our values. We must not put up with those sort of practices that go against our laws and indeed our values, and indeed free speech. We've got to be the party that upholds free speech, because no other party is going to do it. The Tory party is all about money, and the Labour Party, well, they hate Britain pretty much anyway. They're undisguised about it. I feel it is a great, great problem that we are living in an era now where free speech is seriously under threat, with talk of hate crime, with talk of further constrictions here and there. We have got to be the party that actually speaks for the patriotic Britain that I know is out there. As for the rebranding, which we have asked us to talk a little bit about on the sheet there, I would say that yes, I'm fortunate. All of the candidates were actually asked to go along and see what the branding was about, and in fact some of us went, and I have to say I was actually quite encouraged by it. That sounds like a terrible way of getting out of the question. But in fact,
5 minutes.
Oh, it's not my 5 minutes up. Well, anyway, I don't think you should worry about the rebranding. I think you might like it. Thank you.
Peter, before I ask Anne-Marie to take up the baton for the next round, I didn't hear much about what you would do, given that it's still quite a big field, who you were going to be working with, or whose talents you were going to be using. Could you just briefly tell us that?
Yes.
Very briefly.
Yes, of course. I think that what we have to do is have many more new faces. One thing that certainly this leadership contest has shown us is that we have got an enormous amount of new faces, many of them on this table. Yes, of course, there are some people I would certainly love to have on a team, and people as well that, as we've all been meeting going around the country, people in different parts of the country who one would like to see involved. It's not really right maybe to say I would be A and not B, but certainly what this whole process has shown is the sheer amount of different skills and talent, and obviously one would pick from that.
Thank you. Now, Anne-Marie, are you ready to rock and roll?
Absolutely.
Okay, your 5 minutes start now.
Thank you.
I'll give you a ping at 30 seconds.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's been a very difficult process for me. I've had a very difficult time, and things have not gotten easier as it's gone on. I think, actually, that the candidates here tonight are tired and exhausted. I really do think that. It's a very long process, it's a very difficult process. But there are things that must be said, and there are things that must be fought for. And that is essentially what I want to do. There's not you will hear tonight that there are people with personal agendas. There's no personal agenda here. My only agenda here is to fight for this country. And I will fight for it however I can. And I will continue to fight for it wherever I can. There are immense problems that we face. We face immense problems. And they are made even larger by the fact that nobody will face them. Let me give you an example. Let me give you a very politically incorrect example, because that's what I'm here for. I want to present to you the politically incorrect face of British politics. And the reason I want to do that is because it's democratic to do so. We cannot live in a society, where people in politics think they know best and think they know who to dismiss and who not to dismiss. We cannot do this. We must respond to everyone who has a complaint and a grievance. This is our job. And it is particularly our job when the entire the machinery of Westminster refuses to debate or even discuss what I am just about to say to you. Are you aware, for example, today, that there was a video released? I'm not a huge expert on social media, but there was a video released today of a white British policewoman who was, what is by definition, sexually harassed by somebody, a black man. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
Now, this to me is what we need to talk about. I could stand up here and I could play it safe. And I could say that I agree with much of what we've heard. Yes, the party needs reform. Yes, the party needs reform. Of course it does. I want to put it to the party, for example, what we do to the NEC. In my first 100 days, I will hold a conference and I will ask you, the members, what we do with the NEC. That's why I'm not standing there saying what we should do with the NEC. It's not up to me what we do with the NEC. And also, it's not going to attract the public. If I stand here and tell you, vote for me, I sorted out the NEC. No one's going to care. I'll tell you what they will care about. They will care about their daughters being raped in the streets. That's what they will care about. And that is the leader we are looking for. Now, I started by asking you if you'd known about a video that had been released today of a policewoman on the streets of London who was essentially sexually assaulted by a man on camera, and no one gave a damn. I give a damn. This is exactly what we need to be talking about. I don't care about the NEC. The NEC is a private matter for UKIP. We'll sort it out. It doesn't matter. The British public doesn't give a damn about the NEC, nor do they care about what machinations we have, about how we organise ourselves regionally or whatever it is. What they want is someone who will tell them that we will keep your daughter safe. We will keep out these rotten criminals who are coming into this country by the day. That is what people are looking for, and that is what, frankly, I am not hearing. I'm not hearing it. I am not here to win friends. I am not here to be politically correct. I am sick and tired of this. I am sick and tired. You know what? I went up to Sunderland. Have you heard of the Justice for Chelsea campaign?
Yeah.
Yes.
I went up to Sunderland and I sat and I talked with Chelsea herself. She told me what is going on in Sunderland. She told me about the migrants that are coming in to their town and to towns all over this country and who are brutalising and committing criminal offences against their people. We can stand here all day and talk about machinations of UKIP. Who cares? What I care about is children being raped in our streets, and I tell you, if you vote for me, you will have a leader who will really stand up for this. I am sick and tired of it, and I am sick and tired of the apologism. I am sick and tired of ignorance.
It's not fair on the others to flow. Anne-Marie, vision was great. Vision was
But
great.
you didn't tell me to stop.
I did, just now. I
Okay,
said-
no, but you didn't give me a 30-second warning.
I did. Oh, but they were talking
Okay, well, I didn't hear it.
Don't
Sorry.
worry. The vision was great, but in terms of the rebranding, now, we don't know what this rebranding is. If it doesn't suit you, are you happy to
Was
sweep
the
it to one
question about
side?
rebranding?
On the 5 points to address. Yeah? Perhaps I'll check that you got that.
Okay, maybe I'll address what.
And will you
people
work
think
with the other are you happy to work with the other candidates to make sure there's no
I'm
hard
happy to
feelings?
work with the other
Brilliant,
candidates. As long as they have Britain at heart.
Exactly,
I'm happy to work with
brilliant.
anyone. That's why I'm talking about Britain.
Thank you. Right, so we will now move on. Jane, are you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Right,
So can you match that passion, Jane?
I hope so, but I am actually going to answer the questions
Thank
that
you.
have been
That's what
submitted.
I like. So your time starts now.
All right, and I just quickly want to say I'm very humbled by the support I've been given by my 3 colleagues, and although my name will be on the ticket, I am a team leader. I am not working as an individual. I am a team player. The leader of a political party has to provide the political direction. A lot of what Anne-Marie's been talking about tonight, that's the job of a leader, to push the agenda forward. But it's also to create stability as well. And to do that, you mustn't get too tied up with the administration of a party. That's your party chairman's job, and you give it to somebody who you know can actually create a strong and structured party. As a leader, I am looking to put in a team of new professional people who all have their own remit. They're all very talented, and my door is open to anybody that sits on this table, because I actually believe that all the candidates have something to bring to UKIP. But they have to be accountable to a newly reformed NEC. And how we reform the NEC is something, again, that we talk about once we've actually established who the new leader is. And also, you have to understand that it needs to be put to the membership as well, how they think, how they foresee the reforming of the NEC. But I also think that if your chairman is doing his job, then it frees up whoever the leader is of the party to be the political head of the party too. I have 3 big issues that I think is vital to the smooth running of UKIP, and once these are addressed and put in place, then UKIP can become a political campaigning machine again. We've got to get our messaging right. We have to make sure that we appeal to the media, and we also have to fundraise. Again, a big part of the leader's job. As I said, I have an exciting new team. I'm very, very pleased about them. But you also want to know about the vision. Well, obviously, the first vision you have is to make sure that we ensure that we provide, that we secure what 17.4 million people voted for, to leave the EU. That's our first job. But also, we've got to look further than that. And what we do when we've taken the powers back, well, what we do is we still push the political agenda that we've been pushing for 10 years in UKIP. We talk about immigration, we keep talking about it, and we also control our fisheries. We get our fishing grounds back again. We will continue to be the fox in the hen coop of British politics. We will not ever sit down and let them have their own way. We have a lot of things to talk about. We have wind farms that we need addressing. Building on Greenbelt. These are just some of the topics that we have to talk about. We have to tackle people and hold people to account about HS2. Pushing for more grammar schools, reforming the NHS. These are basic topics that we have to push the political agenda on. How do you propose to keep the voters? Well, as I've just said, I think the Labour Party and the Conservative Party are doing an extremely good job. If you think about the Conservatives now, they are looking at a divorce deal of £36 million. Why should we pay a penny? Why should we? We want to leave now. We have no obligations. Unfortunately, we're heading towards a bogus Brexit. It's our job to stop that. Again, if you think about what the Labour Party's done this week with a backpedalling on the single market and the customs union, they're doing our job for us, getting the voters back. Because everybody now, when you talk to them on the doorstep, is saying, well, UKIP said this was going to happen. We've got to get our voters back, but ladies and gentlemen, we've got a big fight ahead of us. You've got to choose the right candidate. I'm in for the fight. I hope you are. And do you want me to just address the
rebranding very quickly?
I haven't seen the rebranding. It should be in conjunction with the membership. If you are voted leader and your membership is not happy with the rebranding, we've got to do something about it. Thank you.
Jane, that timing was perfect. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to give a big welcome for Aidan Palsland, because I think he's had a terrible time getting here. So please, give a round of applause. I'll let somebody else go and then get you sitting. Right, so you just get so they're on the 5 minutes addressing the 5 issues. Okay, so you've got that torch. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that was great, Jane, and I've ticked all your boxes. Roger did a brilliant job helping you there. The next person down the line looks like Henry to me. Henry, you ready for your 5 minutes?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to start by thanking, first of all, Mike Hookham and then Ray Finch for today declaring their support for my candidacy as leader. And I'd also like to thank Nigel, and of course there is only one Nigel, who has allowed me to make it public knowledge that he is my political referee on my nomination forms for this contest. I'd like to tell you a little story as well. Some of you won't know that I spent, just over 3 years in Brussels working for the European Union as Chief Planner for Common Security and Defence Policy. So I can open a few windows on what goes on behind the scenes for you. But something that did also was introduce me to Belgian pubs. And one day I was in a local Belgian pub and two guys walked in. One I knew, he was a sort of amateur military historian. But the other one got talking about the referendum. This was before we had it. And he said, you know what, it's all a lot of fuss about nothing. I don't think the British are going to leave. And the other chap said, I wouldn't be too certain about that. There's a lion in Britain. Twice it's come to the aid of our little Belgium. And for some years, though, now, it's been lying still. We don't know why. Perhaps it's tired. Maybe from the exertions of fighting 2 world wars. But we don't really know. Could even just be old and nearing the end of its days. But it is a British lion, and it is stirring. And when the British lion stirs, the rest of us should take notice. And indeed, on the 23rd of June last year, the British lion did stir. It stood up, it roared, and it pulled on its chains, and it made everybody know that it wanted to be free. But ladies and gentlemen, it is not free yet. We are not out of the European Union. We do not have control of our borders. We do not have control of our immigration. We do not have, or our courts and our parliament are subordinate to a foreign power. Now we must rouse ourselves, we must mobilise and we must organise as a party, because I believe we are the only party that can provide a pro-Brexit opposition. The Conservative Party have dropped the ball. Labour and the Lib Dems, we know, are not going to do the job. They've said as much. So we have to rouse ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. We must make this party a dominant influence in British politics, and we need to do it rapidly. Brexit remains our core task. It is our core purpose as a party, and we need to not only make sure that it's delivered, but we need to make sure that it's delivered effectively, so that we can take our place proudly as a global nation, trading and providing support and security to our allies and friends abroad, and trading to make ourselves prosperous, wealthy, and most of all, our population optimistic. But looking further ahead as well, our population has been neglected. It has no voice. It's disenfranchised. We've got a vast swathe of people here trying to get to grips with the day-to-day challenges of living. I was speaking to a lady the other day who had a problem. She's disabled. She had to go regularly to visit the NHS, and they're creating a hub. Well, that's all well and good, and they told her she could catch public transport. But Stagecoach have cut 500 routes, so she can't catch public transport. There is a total flaw in the way that we consult with our communities and we support the people who live within them. That. We can look at planning, developments, the countryside, the environment. All of these things are neglected because we are not given a voice. That, ladies and gentlemen, is this party's opportunity in this country moving forward. Now, as leader, I would start to shift the centre of gravity of this party from Brussels to the UK. At the moment, the two things are divided, and the weight of effort, financially and politically, happens to be from the centre into Brussels, not here. That needs to change. 2019, we better damn well have it here, otherwise we're going to have a problem. We need a firm platform. Is that 30 seconds?
30 seconds.
Okay, firm platform, all the administrative functions to support our politics. Politics need to be driven and formulated in a cabinet, supported by specialist advisors who, with subject matter expertise drawn from the membership. Governance, a new NEC. Actually, it needs to be more a board of trustees, made up of people from the regions, elected from the regions, providing transparency, communication up and down. It needs to elect its own chairman.
Henry, that's your time.
We'll clearly be talking later.
Henry, great vision. Really enjoying hearing how you're planning to restructure. Rebranding and working with the other candidates.
Yeah. It's not just about working with other candidates, it's working with everybody.
With everybody, yeah. But I mean, you know,
And there's a lot of qualities here. We've had, some of us have had discussions amongst ourselves as to working with each other. I'm not going to talk about those discussions. They might continue. No, I'm not. No, not. No.
Okay. I'd like you to. I'd like you to.
Well, I'm not going to.
I'd like you to talk about some of the things you've said about me, for example, which you denied saying.
Which are all on record, and they're all in the public domain.
Not to me, they weren't.
They're all in the public domain. You saw it.
But you denied them.
Can we all make ourselves on the
Can
table?
I-
No, it's important. I know it's a bad time. Can we make ourselves on the table, please?
I'll wait.
So yes, I will work with anybody who has got something to offer the party and the objectives that I've described earlier. As for the branding, the simple answer is, if I was not happy with the branding and if it didn't meet with the vision and what I felt was the vision of the party and the members of the party, then I would not accept it.
Fine, that's fine. Thank you very much. Because we need to move on. Right, now, David.
Thank you very much.
Curtin,
Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming. It's wonderful to see such a fantastically large audience. Now, first of all, let's talk about the policy direction and what UKIP is for. Brexit has got to stay our #1 priority. It's in trouble. I was outside Parliament a couple of weeks ago having my photograph taken. When I got there, there was an EU protest going on with people waving big EU flags. And I had something in my pocket that I don't normally have because I was having my photograph taken, which was a big Union Jack. So I took it out and held it up and stood in front of the protesters, who then got a little bit annoyed because I was standing in front of them. But the photographer said to them, look, just face it, we're coming out, you've lost, it's over. And they said back, with absolute sincerity, no, we're going to keep you in. One of them was German, one of them was Welsh, and one of them was Italian. So it's a strange mix of people. Anyway, Brexit, the point I'm saying that is that every week it seems that someone comes out one by one, trying to attack Brexit. It was Sadiq Khan, then it was Chukaru Muna, now it's Tony Blair this week. I was on the John Gaunt show last week. Yeah, exactly. He's reared his ugly head again, hasn't he? And Jeremy Corbyn has taken the whole Labour Party in the direction of staying in the single market and the customs union. So our job on that is not finished. But we do need to think about what kind of party we are, what we stand for, and where we want the country to go after we leave Brexit. And we will have Brexit because we're still here and we're not going to let the establishment get away with keeping us in. But there are some things that I think are very important. Number one is education. Of course, I'm the education spokesman and I've been a teacher for 20 years. So I think that is key to building a successful country afterwards. Immigration is linked to that because for so long, under Blair and Brown and Cameron and May, we've had rapid mass immigration. And we've imported people with skills because we haven't been training our own young people with the skills they need, particularly technical skills. And our policies are the best. We want grammar schools and technical schools in every area. We want the bloated higher education sector cut down to size so it focuses on academic qualifications, and then we can get people who are nurses into nursing courses at 16 like we used to, so that we don't have shortages in the NHS. And it all feeds in together. But there's something else I joined UKIP for, and that is because UKIP has the courage to stand up to political correctness and to give it its real name, cultural Marxism. Some of you may have heard of the Frankfurt School and the pernicious influence it's had, not just in this country but around the world since the 1930s. And the idea of that school is to deconstruct society. So it's not surprised that some of the same people who want to deconstruct the nation and take us into the EU also want to deconstruct family, communities, even our gender, even marriage, and we have to stand up to it. And I think we can put... This puts clear blue water between us and all the other parties, including the Conservative Party, who are now going down this route that's called progressive cultural Marxism. They want to get children confused about their gender and teach them that they're not boys and girls. This is wicked. And it needs someone to stand up and say that, and I will do that, and I hope you as UKIP will stand with me and do that, and make sure our kids are safe. But of course we have to organise internally as well. We've never really properly organised and become professional. We saw that in the last election where we only fielded 360 candidates or so on. I will start candidate selection immediately because we have to be ready for another snap election. Is my time? Have I got
No, you're not even at 30 seconds yet.
Oh, wonderful. So, never trust Theresa May. She said, I'm not going to have another election until 2020. And then she went walking off in the fields. Is that 5 minutes?
30 seconds.
She went off walking in the fields in Wales and then said, I'm going to have an election. She might be doing the same thing now. So we have to be battle ready for an election. We've got to do that. We need funds, of course. I think I'll be good at fundraising, and I know that because so many of you, grassroots members, have supported me in my campaign. I don't have a lot of money myself because I've been a teacher. And I've been truly, yeah, for a long time, I've been giving.
Okay.
You're going to ask me to talk about the rebranding now, aren't you?
Very quickly.
Okay, sorry. Fundraise, rebranding. Okay, I was all against the idea of rebranding, completely against it, but Steve Crowther called all the candidates invited us to attend a meeting in Tiverton before the Southwest Hustings. I went in there quite cynical about what was going to happen. We can't change the name, we can't change the brand. But I listened to what he said, and actually, what he's done, I actually quite like, and I think it's really rather good. Now, of course, I think the final decision should be yours, but I don't think it's anything to worry about. And so I would not fight against that because I actually seen it, and it's all right. So that's my opinion on the rebrand.
Thank you. David, I will just say one thing to you, because I've heard you at other hustings talking about policy units and keeping it going all the time with the manifesto, and I know I've heard it tonight, heard it from Ben. So you're happy working with other members of the team and on that level?
Yeah,
excellent. Thank you.
I'm just a full answer, but yes, yeah, I can work with other people.
You
Yes,
mentioned that tonight.
wouldn't just be me.
I know people are obviously thinking along the same lines, and it is. I think it's something we really do need to do. You know, it's something that I approved of when I heard you up in London. So, Andrew, Andrew is representing John Rees Evans. Would you please like to tell us John's vision for UKIP and how he sees the restructuring of our party?
Madam Chairman, thank you.
Your 5 minutes starts now, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this.
Let me speak plainly to you all. This election could be the last meaningful leadership election we may have. So we have to get it right. It's good to hear red meat. It's good to hear platitudes. I'm asking you all to get your heads around the how we can get the red meat and the platitudes into something tangible in our party and in the nation. There are two candidates among us, if I'm speaking as John Rees Evans, who have a vision. It's Anne-Marie and John Rees Evans. You've heard Anne-Marie give her address, that's great. I want to now speak about John's vision for the party. John's vision of direct democracy. And it's about re-energising, reinvigorating the party. The party is in a bad way, it is moribund. Unless we do something radical, there is no future for us. This party is about its members, and it is time the members are trusted. This movement, this vision of John's for direct democracy in the party is not going to stop at the party. For he wants to take this into the country. It is about wresting control from the liberal elites. Friends, we know that a small minority in the country control most things, determine most things, and most of those things are unrepresentative of what ordinary men and women want in this country. So, John's vision is about getting direct democracy in the country. The political system which we have is still essentially the same political system from the 18th century. The time has come for major reform. Let UKIP be at the vanguard of this fight for reform. Now look, we're not without examples in the world. The Five-Star Movement in Italy is on the cusp of power. The Swiss cantons use referenda to great effect, and it is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. And of course the United States to state level, they have referendum. So we are not without examples. And of course, the biggest example of direct democracy at work was the 23rd of June 2016, our Independence Day. May I briefly touch on other matters that you have asked me to? John has those exceptional qualities of integrity, fair-mindedness, and respect for others. And that means that people can work with him and they can trust him. Yes, they can trust him. He will not lie. He is a trustworthy man. And that's very important. Do you not think that's important? I do. I can assure you that John is talking to many people in the party structures, to try and get the best team possible in a way that is helpful and constructive. One of the candidates who has stepped down, his view was sack the lot of them. I don't think that's the right approach myself. Concerning donors, at John's launch, the biggest launch, he had a donor, a prospective donor, whose value, if I can put it crudely, is far in excess of Aaron Banks. He was with another potential donor very recently. So friends, John is most interested in building relationships with new donors who are prepared to help and finance this great party. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I just say something about the rebranding? The rebranding is absolutely, totally your choice, no one else.
Thank you.
Why is it
Right. We have one candidate left. I'll give you as much time to settle after your journey. Aidan, can we have your 5 minutes, please?
Good evening. I'm going to follow Helena's questions religiously, which is why I'm holding this in front of me. The first part was, how are we going to use existing talent? I want us to focus on winning elections. And for that reason, I think we have to focus on what we are going to do as a party, what we stand for. In other words, on our manifesto. And I think the first thing that I would do is invite any member of the party to apply to be a spokesman. At the moment, our spokesmen generally are rather well paid. They're either MEPs or they're councillors, and generally they are paid by the taxpayer. We are not going to be in that situation in the short term. And one of my more detailed opinions, I think I would say, is that we should take 60% of the chairman's salary and distribute it in the form of maybe £3,000 of expenses a year to, say, 20 spokesmen, or 6,000 to 10, so that people from the party in general will at least have travel expenses if they're representing us. The aim of this is to really open the spokesmanships up to everybody, and the aim of that is to get the manifesto ready and in a new form as soon as possible. Helena also asked how we're going to inspire the confidence of donors. The most popular party in the country at the moment is generally provided money by wealthy people who believe that it is going to make the economy stronger. The second most popular party is generally provided money by the unions because they believe it will represent the interests of relatively weak people. We have to have a platform that will itself attract money. Now that could be done in more than one way, as I've just illustrated. That's two ways of doing it. But my belief is that the vision that our party should get behind is creating wealth. It's wealth creation it's the economy, and if we have policies that will deliver riches to the country, I think donors will in fact come to us. Now, actually, one of my rivals will say that we don't want to be beholden to donors. I am independently not very wealthy, and I would never be beholden to anybody. And certainly, the party of which I was part would not be beholden to donors because they were giving particular sums of money. On a small technical point also, most people don't realise that our profit margin on membership is very low because of the cost of administering it. And I just offer you to consider that. Of course, what I actually want is thousands of wealthy donors and hundreds of thousands of members. There's a question about how to keep the members engaged. Now, one of the ways I would hope to do that would be to invite John Rhys Evans to build a certain amount of direct democracy in the party, an amount which we could experiment with and determine the effectiveness of. But I want to be clear to you all that I don't think direct democracy is a panacea. I don't think the party should be led from the back seat. I think the leader should lead the party. I think we could potentially distill a very clear and appealing to the membership manifesto through direct democracy, and one of my fears is not because I don't respect our wonderful free-thinking membership, but nonetheless, if we did that, we might find ourselves quite divorced from the electorate at large. And although it is in a way insulting to you all for me to say that, I want to go back to the first thing I said. We need to win elections. And the strongest leader here is going to be the one who is going to distill our best essence and deliver it to the electorate in a way that they will vote for. I think direct democracy is potentially revolution for revolution's sake, and we will all be wondering what the hell we are in fact standing for until John tells us. I've talked about my strategic vision as being wealth creating. On the subject of the other candidates, I would be honoured and privileged to work with the majority of them. I hope we can continue this afterwards. Thank you.
Aidan, we very clearly got what your vision wasn't. I'm not quite sure I got what your vision was.
Wealth creation.
Wealth creation, brilliant. And if you don't like the rebranding, are you happy to say, no, we've got to change that? I imagine you would be, wouldn't you?
On the subject of the rebranding, when this was presented at the meeting which I was present at, the question I asked, given that it was an attempt to change our image among the electorate at large, it was specifically said that this was a change not to quiet the membership, but a change to bring new members in. And what I said was, have we in fact studied how this new logo appeals to the electorate in general? To which the answer was no.
Thank you.
So I think that we must indeed consult you all on any change to the logo.
Thank you, Aidan. Well, would you want to speak, Marion? Here's Tom. Would you like to speak up there? Ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, this is Marion Mason, who's come along anyway because she's supporting Jane, as she said. And I'd like to thank everybody for those. And I know it's difficult for some of you because, Anne-Marie, I do appreciate that what happened last week was unpleasant.
Wasn't unpleasant.
Well, it was, you know, I was very disappointed, I have to say. And I'm quite happy to say that, as chairman of Surrey, that I was disappointed.
There was intent to silence me.
Exactly, and I was disappointed with that because that was 2 weeks after we'd all been agreed that these were the candidates who were fit to stand.
Right.
However, we're now on to the open question session. Roger has sorted all your questions. questions. We had some come in by email, and we had a nice big bucket full. So we'll get through what we can. It's going to be a little bit easier now.
I don't need to be bored about
No,
this.
no, fine.
But if you know, if
Marion, I asked her if she wanted to
is
speak.
she going to speak or not? I mean,
No,
well, in that case, why are you sitting up here? I mean,
because there's no seats.
Okay, I was a little bit late, so obviously we've got a bit lost in communication here. I was coming along, and I was coming along as a candidate until just this evening. Again, like Ben, I have over the process of the last few hustings been having a conversation with Jane and observing that she is thinking along the same lines exactly as I am. I've been a member for 10 years, so I want UKIP to go forward, and we want Brexit to be an exit, and everything that a lot of the candidates have said here. So because there's quite a lot to choose, which is going to be difficult for the membership, and so to aid it and to support UKIP in its choice, because it's very important who you choose, that leader has to be the person with the right team. I have now thrown my support behind Jane, so it's reducing the amount that you have to then choose. And thank you very much. That's why I drove over 2 hours just to say that, and I just wanted it to be known. Thank you. I will get back to the floor now. Can you all get Marion a round of applause, please? No, I'll go around the back.
It's just a bit short on the back. And actually, I pulled Marion over because she started sitting on what was a saved seat, and I know my three members at the front are always late.
Okay.
Sorry?
Hurry up.
Yeah. We're going to hurry up. Right, so we've got the questions. Now, I'm going to take chairman's privilege. We are in Surrey. There is almost a quarter of the total hectarage of metropolitan greenbelt in Surrey. There's going on for half of the total metropolitan greenbelt area in the southeast counties. So, a quick yes or no question to get you into the habit of hand raising is that UKIP's policy in recent local and national manifestos has been to protect the greenbelt. Will the candidates keep that policy? Yes or no? Show of hands.
Yes.
Aidan, will you keep it?
No.
No, you won't.
No.
You wouldn't.
Oh.
Right.
You did say yes or no answer.
Yes. And so we've got 2, 4. So we've got 1 no and everybody else for yes. So Aidan, why would you not support?
The reason I would not support specifically the preservation of the green belt is partly to do with my own experience of dealing with the planning authority. So I'm just going to tell you a short story.
Make it very short.
Okay, maybe I can't make it short enough. My proposal is that we should repeal the Town and Country Planning Act in its entirety, and we should replace it with a reformed law of tort that would allow people to file actions for damages if they suffered from development. And the effect of this would be to better preserve all the parts of the country where people's interests were most threatened by development, regardless of whether they are green or not.
Okay, thank you very much, Aidan. I thought I would give Aidan a chance to speak because he was a sole dissenting voice.
well, why? It's a yes or no question.
It was a yes or no,
yes
question.
Or no question.
It was just very unusual that to have
You
sole
don't
dissenter.
therefore get a privilege to doing it. Anyway.
Sorry, please, but anyway.
Madam Chair, we need to hear the candidate.
Yes.
Okay, would anybody of 2, 4, 6 of you, can you hear?
I'm sorry.
Can you
All-
ask the candidates to stand up when they
Yeah.
speak?
Right, all six of you, is out of those of you, who would like to say why you believe the Metropolitan Greenbelt and the other greenbelts in our country are important? Peter,
All right,
I
I'll
think you
say
would.
it. Okay.
And Jane. Okay, Peter and Jane, not more than a
Is
minute.
this working? Right, good. Well, it's turning in from a yes/no into a general question. Of course, look, the fact is, we're the only party actually that is really clear about the green belt. The Tory is basically doing it by stealth, right? They're building on it. I think in some areas, such as like in Havering, for example, you know, it's about a quarter of it gone already on housing. This is not really, in a way, the problem. But it's not unlike so many of the problems that I have to discuss in the London Assembly, right? Whether you're talking about housing on the Greenbelt, whether you're talking about congestion and transport, whether you're talking about hospitals, it comes down to the fact that there are simply too many people coming into the country. Time and time again, you have these discussions, I'm sure you have in your workplaces, where basically there's a big grey elephant in the room, no one will talk about it. This is what it is, and it will not get better while we have this level of migration, which is still at the level of a city the size of Hull every year coming into this. We have to take this issue back, UKIP. We have to take it back because we've lost it. And we've got to take it back because this is the one thing people really care about in this country.
That, especially in Surrey, that you're going to struggle because people are actually travelling for jobs down here because there aren't any jobs up north, and they're actually buying houses down here. But also, you've got to look at your local councils, and you've got to ask why the permission is being given to build on the Greenbelts. And it's usually because it's cheaper, and it's because they don't want to actually spend the money in cleaning up the brown site areas, and you've got to hold them to account, and the planning laws have to be reformed. And again, we can't build enough houses, we know that is down to the uncontrolled immigration and migration, but that's happened. What we've got to now do is address it. You've got to look to your borough councils, you've got to look to your county councils, and you've got to ask them why they're allowing their friends, the builders, to build on your green belts and not pay to clean up the brown sites. That's what the thing is. Yeah, and it's a bat as well. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, I would like to. Look, we can talk about the internal issues until the cows come home. Primary fact, we have got to stop the migration. We have got to stop the migration. It is as simple as that. I don't hear from UKIP anymore. I really don't hear it. The primary focus of UKIP must be two things, and they are combined. Getting out of the EU and immigration, and they are the same thing. Until we really, really deal with them, you cannot deal. You cannot have a city the size of Wolverhampton comes into this country every year. This is unsustainable. Where are we? Where are we? The borders must be closed. We cannot sustain this. We must be shouting this from the rooftops at every opportunity. It's all very well. It's all very well. We must talk about the NHS, we must talk about housing, we must talk about education.
Stop the Greenbelt now.
We must talk about culture. We must remember to talk about culture. I am tired of us forgetting to talk about culture. Our country is being destroyed by thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of people who don't know us, who we don't know, who are coming into this country every year. We have got to deal with this. Migration is first. We can deal with nothing else after that.
Isn't the real problem here that nobody is listening to you?
Yes.
Nobody's listening to you about your communities, about your countryside, about your way of life, or about planning developments. You have very little voice. And Jane was quite right. You need to go to the councils, and you need to make your voice heard. But we've all tried it, and it doesn't work. This party has got a marvellous opportunity in front of it to give people a voice. So again, we have to mobilise with that objective in mind. That's the way to address this, and I absolutely accept, absolutely 100%, that we cannot sustain an net immigration rate of 350,000 a year and producing a town the size of Hull or Wolverhampton. It is utterly unsustainable in many ways.
I have to speak on this as well, and I do have to agree that you can't separate this from immigration. But we need to be smart about what we say about immigration because there are some specific problems. There are sham marriages which still go on. We need to bring back the primary purpose rule. There are family reunions which go on which are not genuine. There are bogus asylum seekers that we don't talk about. All of these things are going to get us into trouble with the mainstream media, but I don't care. We need to talk about it. We also need, thank you, we need to be a party that's going to win on a national level and a local level. On a local level, it's councils, whether they're Conservative, in London, Labour councils are supposed to care for the working man and woman who don't. And they're responsible very often for giving permission for multi-billion-pound regenerations where the local people get kicked out and then have to move out of London into Surrey, Essex, Hertfordshire, etc.
Okay, come on, David. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Now, you all get to answer this one. It is Roger Bird's question. It's not biased because he put it in before I asked him to do the question sorting. So, you're all going to answer it. I'll tell you who starts first. What, in your view, is the single most important quality for a political leader to possess? Now, if you want to put something in, Andrew, I'm happy for you to do that, but have time to think about it if you know what John thinks. But, let me think. Who will I start with? Anne-Marie, come on. Brief as you can, but certainly...
I'll be very, very brief with this because I'm very, very passionate about it. Clarity. Clarity. The public must know what you are talking about. They will not give you hours of their time. People are busy. They have mortgages to pay. They have children to raise. They are not interested in spending endless hours wondering what you are talking about. You must deliver a clear, concise and firm message immediately. In 2 or 3 minutes, that's all people are going to give you. Clarity. Clarity, consistency and bravery. That's what the public wants.
Brilliant. Peter, what do you think?
That was a very good answer from Anne-Marie, actually. But I would say to you that there's something that a leader needs, and there's something which the leader of UKIP needs. And I would say that that is courage. Because at every step of the way, 24 hours a day, you are going to be under it. And I don't just mean because you've got to go on this show, you've got to sort that problem out. That's what you have to do as a leader. But when it comes to us, you have got to keep your people, your troops, you've got to keep their morale up because they are going to be absolutely under the hammer for their views and for their beliefs from all quarters. So I would say, and we have got, and we did have rather, one of the most wonderful examples of courage actually in Nigel Farage. You need that. You need, I would say, the one thing for a UKIP leader is courage of conviction and stamina.
Right, Henry, what do you think?
Chair, I'm going to abuse the privilege of now standing up and give you 2 answers. I would agree entirely, but I would say moral courage and integrity.
Wonderful, I love the brevity. Now, Jane.
Yeah, well, actually, it's pretty difficult, so all the words are nearly used.
You get the same ones, that's right.
No, but you have. You've got to have a heart of a lion. You've got to have a heart of a lion. And you have to also have you have to be humble as well. Because if people don't trust you and you don't have that integrity and they feel they can't relate to you, it doesn't matter how brave you are and how much determination you have. If you can't relate to people, they won't vote for you. And you have to have that ability to listen, to learn, and then lead. Thank you.
I agree with Henry that you must have virtue. I actually agree with Peter that you must be resilient. I think a leader is not someone who doesn't make mistakes. I think they're someone who learns from them and bounces back. I also agree with Jane that you must listen. And the one I will add for myself is that I think you must be right. You must win.
Thank you.
David? In the minds of the public, the party is synonymous with the face of the leader very often. So you need someone with a pretty face, like this one. So this is it. No, honestly, I do agree with much of what's been said here. On my Facebook, on my Twitter, the tagline for my campaign is courage, excellence, freedom. So I do agree that we need courage. Yeah. We've also got to have excellence, and you've got to know what you're talking about and have a very wide knowledge of lots of different issues. And hopefully you think I do that, and I try to field all of the questions that you'll give me, and you'll see that. And we have to stand up for freedom of speech and not be afraid when people come at us, because we're never going to change the old media. They're always going to come at us. But I will use my freedom of speech with courage to put UKIP's message forward and to get us to a place where we can win.
Thank you. Okay, on behalf of John Rhys Evans,
Thank
Andrew,
you.
take it away.
Thank you very much. I agree with Peter, courage. And ladies and gentlemen, a UKIP leader needs courage because he's going to be attacked from outside, from the liberal media, but he's also, or she will also potentially be attacked from people within UKIP. And so I found it very appropriate, Peter, that you said that. Thank you.
I think that requires a bit of explanation, don't you?
Certainly, by all means.
No, you said that.
No, okay. Yeah, thank you, Peter. Well, you attacked John Rhys Evans for his views concerning the use of foreign aid budget money, and you attacked David for his views concerning a scientific review linking homosexuality and child abuse. Now, whether you agree with it or not,
Andrew,
it's about freedom of speech.
Andrew, I said we were not having any standing matches on this table.
No, but I will answer back.
Very briefly, please.
I'm going to
I'll
answer
give
those.
you have a right of reply.
First of all, I have never ever, under an enormous amount of abuse actually that comes out on social media,
yes.
I have not actually answered back on those two things, right? First of all, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I'm a gay man. I've never come across much homophobia in UKIP, but I'm not going to sit there and have my kind of sexuality discussed in that way, right? That it somehow might be the product of some kind of sexual abuse. I don't quite understand why I should actually stay silent on that. I absolutely, in an anodyne and perfectly reasonable way, said that this is entirely wrong. That's all I said. I defend the candidate's right to actually say it. I defend his right to stand, all of that stuff. I am going to disagree because it went to the very essence of me. And if you start doing that and saying that actually this is not what you are, basically it's a lifestyle choice and all this, this goes to the very heart of you. Number one. Number two, the reason that I basically disagreed with what John Rhys Evans said is he was talking about people going back or being encouraged to go back to other countries. And I think, frankly, we have never been a party that's ever had a kind of repatriation element.
But that's not what John said. He didn't
that
say
is what
that.
he said. On both of those examples, on both of those examples, these candidates
You got it through the liberal media, Peter.
These astonishing naivety about what the media will pick up. Right, and that is why I actually said that. Can you not actually have a disagreement about this?
Well,
this is actually
you can, Peter, if you get it right, if you get your facts right.
I got it absolutely right.
Yes, please.
Can you keep it very brief?
Yeah, okay.
I'll try and calm it down. Otherwise, we won't get through any more.
Yeah,
There's lots of important questions.
Yeah, okay. I'll try and keep it brief. Look, I'm not going to attack anybody, and I don't want to sling mud at anybody, and I hope you've seen this. I haven't done that at all. But this has come up, and a hatchet job was done on me by an organisation called Pink News. You might have heard it. It's a rag. It's for the LGBT community. I answered a survey on my opinions on marriage and sexuality. I'm a Christian. I'm a social conservative. I believe marriage is between a man and a woman. And I answered 15 questions on that survey. And this rag has done hatchet jobs on Nigel, they've done Paul Nuttall, they've even done David Coburn, and they saw this and they've done me. And so I was attacked from within the party, and I do think we need to have some collective responsibility. If something goes out on something like Pink News or The Independent or The Guardian, which is a hatchet job, without actually, you know, looking at what I said and all my answers to the questions, and actually without coming in and talking to me first, I think that's wrong. Okay, so that's just me responding to that. And I don't want this to get nasty, so I'll...
Don't get nasty. David, you say you say you don't want it to get nasty. Why did you not come and have the decency? Why did you not even think I might not actually say that because my colleague next door is gay? Why did you not think of that?
Well, look, I think this is getting a little uncivil, so I think it's probably time to move on.
You guys some questions on Brexit. Now, Mike Gascoigne emailed in, and we've had several questions from the floor similar. Quick!
Use the mic, Chairman.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Quick, yes and no. Quick, yes and no. Is it possible to do any kind of Brexit deal with the European Union? No. Right. Now, Ruth Kenwood, who's here,
Can we have some order, please? Because it is really noisy in this room, and it's not fair if people are actually trying to hear us speak.
Right, so you guys need to hear this question. Ruth Kenwood, who's chairman of Bognor Regis and Littlehampton, if we cannot have a hard border in Ireland after Brexit, is the solution to uncontrolled immigration A, for Ireland to leave the EU, or B, for Northern Ireland to leave the UK? Now, in view of what we've been talking about, this is an interesting question. Did you get that, guys?
You say that again?
I'll say it again to my... If we cannot have a hard border in Ireland after Brexit, is the solution to uncontrolled immigration for Ireland to leave the EU or for Northern Ireland to leave the UK? I'll decide who speaks first. Okay, so David, you can speak first.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You're answering the question.
All right, well, it's
1
a
minute.
very, very short answer. I think it would be fantastic for Ireland to leave the EU. I think I'll recommend that to our friends in the Republic of Ireland. Look, they only went in 1972 because most of the trade that the Republic of Ireland did was with Britain. And Denmark, it went in for the same reason. So for those two countries, if we come out, I think it would make great common sense for them to come out. And I'm actually going to go to a debate in Dublin in November and debate Gina Miller in Trinity College. So that will be very, very interesting. So we shall see. Hopefully I'll convince some of our Irish friends to make the right move there.
Okay, so, Henry.
Southern Ireland gets more money out of the British taxpayer than they do out of EU.
Well, they want to come and join us. We're happy for that to happen, I'm sure. I, for 4 years, was the senior border advisor running all the global border programs for 56 countries. In that process, you can imagine, one comes across a great many solutions. There are some really good solutions for that border which do not need to interrupt the flow of movement, but do secure immigration and do protect trade. The problem here, ladies and gentlemen, is that the European Commission wants Southern Ireland to secure the external borders of the European Union. That is the problem. It is not a technical problem, it's not a legal problem, there are solutions there, it is simply a political problem in Brussels.
I agree with Henry, it is the EU scaremongering again. They're wanting to create this problem. There's never really been hard borders in Ireland, have there? No. So why would there be now? Why is there a need for it? Total scaremongering by the EU. There are things that we can do to protect the movement and some more security checks, but there's never been a hard border. It's all propaganda from the EU.
Thank you.
As you may be able to tell from the accent, I know Ireland quite well. It has changed drastically since I was a child when I lived there. It's no longer the country I knew. However, the idea that a border is a Brussels problem, no, it isn't. There is a huge problem here, and it's one of the biggest problems that Brexit represents, is introducing a hard border into Northern Ireland. It will inflame tensions in Northern Ireland, and we have only just set them to rest. If we have a hard border in Northern Ireland, things will escalate again. This is a huge, huge problem. Personally, I would love to see Southern Ireland get out of the EU and rejoin the UK. That is how. That is my but until that happens, we have to deal with reality. We have to deal with the fact that we have a Northern Ireland which does not want a hard border. And this is a massive problem for Theresa May, and one I do not envy her. And it's, to me, one of the biggest issues of the Brexit. What we do, I don't know. But what I don't want to see, because like you say, Jane, there has never been a border among the 4 countries of these islands. We have a huge problem here. But as long as Southern Ireland is allowing migration from across the world, and they have transformed Southern Ireland into something I don't recognise. Every time I go there, which is where it's a completely different country. As long as that's happening, there must be a border. There must be a border.
I would agree with what you said.
Thank you. Do you want to add anything, Aidan? Are you happy?
I will just add that, of course, Northern Ireland should not leave the United Kingdom. And I would like to point out, obviously citizens of the Republic of Ireland can vote in the UK. If we were to create dual passports for Irish citizens only with British and British with Irish, the significant 3% of the population who have chosen to live in the EU, all people who wanted to do that would have that right, but none of the EU citizens would have the right to live here except for the Irish ones. And I'm not proposing this. I think this would be a policy that perhaps could be aired and the membership could be consulted on. I hear what Anne says about the drawbacks of what I've just suggested. Thank you.
Can I clarify one thing? I'm a British citizen, not an Irish one. I just want to point that out.
I didn't mean
I just want to point that out. Thank you. Just to make that
I
clear.
wasn't suggesting Anne was not.
No, I didn't say you were, but people are.
But
So
Andrew,
to be clear, I'm a British citizen, not an
because
Irish.
you have that background. It's useful to have your contribution. Did you have anything, Andrew, that John thinks on this? And keep to the question, please.
Thank you, John. For John, the union is sacrosanct, and I'm sure you'd agree with virtually everything that's been said here.
That's great.
Thank you.
Right, so let's move on. We'll have another quick yes, no. Toby Micklethwaite asks, as the prospective leader of UKIP, do you consider the current UKIP manifesto fit for purpose? Yes or no?
No.
No.
Any more no?
No.
That's fine. Excellent. That means we can move on. Now, another one about leadership politics. This is a combo of Brian Goodwin, who emailed in several, and Linda Thatcher, who's here in the audience. Do you believe that an elected leader in public life should always be prepared for public scrutiny and intrusion? Now, I think I'll keep this to 30 seconds. And Aidan, would you like to start?
Of course you have to be prepared for it, because that is what is going to happen.
Yes.
I mean, I am a believer in privacy and in freedom of thought. They're both sort of related, but in any case, that is what will happen. So you have to be ready to say, yes, I did whatever it was that they're picking you up on, and this is why I am not apologising for it. Or, if the thing you've done is so terrible that you can't do that or even apologise for it, then of course you shouldn't be in politics in the first place.
Thank you. Peter?
Yes, I would just really answer very much along the same lines as before. I think that you do have to be aware of intrusion, you do have to worry about that, and you have to have a thick skin. But I think particularly for a UKIP leader, because they will basically start from the moment that this thing is announced, whenever it is in September 29th, they will start beavering away as soon as they can to get something to just basically try to discredit whoever gets it.
Yeah.
So I think we're all basically up for it. So
Can I add, what exactly was the question?
Do you believe an elected leader in public life should always be prepared for public scrutiny and intrusion?
Oh, God, you're kidding.
It's horrible, isn't it?
Since I said I was standing for this leadership, the media have been all over me. I didn't realise how bad it would be, and I didn't realise how little I would care. To hell with them. To hell with them.
Yes, you've got to be able to stand it. You've got to have skin like a rhino, and I think I agree entirely.
You can say it, Jen. You can say you agree with me.
I do. I entirely agree with what you've just said.
To agree with me.
I entirely agree with what you've just said. You've got to stand it. You've not got to let it get to you, and you have to move on from it. So yeah, you've got to be. You have to be an open book. The only thing I would say is that if you have a very young family or relatives, I think before you ever put your name on that ballot paper, you have to ensure they're comfortable as well, and you have to have the support of a very strong family behind you, because they will get the scrutiny as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going down the road. Henry.
I agree with all of the above.
Thank you. David.
Yeah, one of the questions you get asked over and over again if you stand for something is, have you got any skeletons in the cupboard? It's getting quite late in the contest, and I do need to confess something. That there are some videos of me doing karaoke. So they might come out, but I don't mind. I think that'll be fun. Nothing to worry about. I know there's going to be scrutiny, intense scrutiny. I've been on the London Assembly for 1.5 years, and nothing bad has happened. So there you go.
Yes, John would fully expect scrutiny, and he will push back against intrusion. Okay.
Thank you. Right, I'm going to give you another yes/no. Animal welfare. Which of the candidates will make it a core UKIP policy to ban non-stun slaughter immediately in the UK? Now, I had a lot of questions on how that. I have to say, I don't think anybody in this room would care what's it if an imam or a rabbi wanted to say a prayer. We're talking about non-stun slaughter, animal welfare.
It's about the animal.
So thank you for those of you who are prepared to go with that. Now let's have some meat. It's time we moved on to the economy, guys. Jim Makin from East Hampshire, thank you very much for your question. How do you propose to invigorate the UK economy? And I'll allow you a minute on this. Right, who am I going to start with? I will start with Jane.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, right, well, stand up. UK economy. I think the economy is obviously the backbone of the country, and low taxation is something that's always been very key to UKIP, and because obviously we are a party of low taxation. If you're on a minimum wage, you shouldn't be paying income tax. You shouldn't actually be paying national insurance. If you are on a low wage, there should be some form of tax rebate or some relief so that you're actually on a living wage. Because people who have money can actually pay into the economy. So if you have money, you spend, the economy thrives. I mean, I'm probably teaching the majority of people in this room how to grandma how to cook eggs. But we also, as a party, are a party where we don't encourage over legislation, over red tape, over wage restrictions. So that's very important, because we have to encourage small to medium businesses as well as making sure that the big businesses and the manufacturing businesses that we've still got in this country stay. So it is a round thing, and I actually think we should abolish, inheritance tax. And if you're paying into a private health service, get a rate back to that.
It's 9 o'clock, we need everybody else to have a chance.
Yes, but other people do it too.
I know, but I keep trying to be strict with them as well. Okay, Henry.
First thing, I'd leave the European Union. Cut the bureaucracy, make our own trade deals, let's get the engine going. Second thing, simplify the tax system.
Yes, yes.
We could talk about that all night, I'm sure.
You have 1 minute.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I agree exactly with what's been said. We need to leave the EU. Brexit is the answer we know. But we've also got to make sure that it works for people in this country. Going back to what I said at the beginning, we need to make sure that British young people get the benefit of us leaving the EU, and it doesn't just go to a few people and perhaps continue with freedom of movement like the Conservatives and the Labour Party seem to want to do. And this is why we need to be in government. It's not going to change unless we're there. Okay, and with me as leader, I think I'm going to make us a party that ultimately will march into 10 Downing Street. That might not happen immediately, but it is my vision, so that everybody in this country can survive and thrive and make the best of the great economy we'll have when we leave the European Union.
My question was actually how we're going to do it, not what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Okay, well.
Okay, you've got time now.
I don't know, okay.
I think, let's see. Anne-Marie, can you address what the others feel haven't been addressed?
Yeah, look, I pretty much agree with everything that's been said. Look, the free market economy works. It works. I'm a girl of evidence, and I like the free market economy because it works. How are we going to expand it? How we usually do. I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but we must, of course, get out of the EU. This is a given. This is a given. We must get rid of all this regulation. We must free up money. Money needs to be free. This is a priority. We can't, one of the things I really don't want to do is sign up to any political theory. I was asked last night if I was a Keynesian. I don't like these labels. I don't like this kind of, we are a free market economy. We must remain a free market economy. We must grow as a free market economy. With the realisation that sometimes economies need a bit of work. I think continue doing what we're doing and trying to grow. I know that's not the answer you're probably looking for, but I think we've got it right. Inflation is very low. We must keep what we're doing and keep growing. The economy needs to grow.
Okay, Peter.
So again, I think I would agree obviously on the basis of the economy. I think the problem we face, you say how would we do it? Is the problem at the moment is that we've got so many vested interests who don't like the fact that the good news, the economic news is good news coming out. It's coming out all the time. You know that there was a statistic showing that 36 billion direct investment into the UK in 2015. That went up to 197 billion in 2016. Now that's before the effects have even come in, actually, the better effects of Brexit. So there is this good news out there, but you don't really get to hear about it on the mainstream media. And everywhere you look, and the problem is this isn't just having a crack at the BBC. That has this kind of roll-on effect of actually making economic forecasts down and actually making them pessimistic and actually seeping away at our confidence. We have to resist that. We have to keep on putting the good news out. But in the very long term, when I think of economics, I would love to see this country once again making things. Manufacturing.
Okay, Aidan.
I disagree with Henry. We don't need to negotiate bilateral trade deals with anyone. We just need to trade freely. No tariffs, no restrictions, unilateral. More than any of the other candidates, I would reduce tax by 101 billion a year. Most of that I would take away from industry and services and businesses so that we can create the wealth to pay for all our services. I would also cut regulations more than any of the other candidates. So, for example, I would repeal 80% of the employment regulations. But the big elephant in the room we haven't mentioned is that we have an unproductive economy because we have a massive welfare state. And we need to shift wealth from rewarding people for doing nothing to rewarding people for creating wealth. And the final thing is, I just said I'd take 101 billion out of tax revenue for the government, but I would slash the welfare budget by even more, and I have a precise proposal to put the government into surplus. No more deficit. No, actually. No, I'm just having a right to reply.
I mean,
he barracked me. No, he barracked me.
Aidan, quickly. I know what you're going to say.
Okay, much of my welfare reductions would fall upon the wealthy, who don't necessarily need, for example, the state pension they have. I know a family who uses their entire one-year pension to pay for the extended family to go to the theatre in London because they are absolutely rolling in it.
Thank you. Right, now I'm going to try and get 2 more questions in and still finish at 9:30. So, Barry Wynne from Bexhill asks, the long-term future of a party lies with the younger generation. How do you propose attracting these people to the party? Peter?
Not by attacking the working class.
I think that one of the most important things, we have obviously these youth groups, young independents, very, very important. But I think that one of the crucial areas now is in our universities. We have something called UKIP students, and basically they're very much in their infancy. But as you probably know, the days when universities were the place you expanded your mind, well and truly gone. They're all about now constricting your mind. And they're all about no platforming people and things like this. We have actually got to really motivate our young people in universities. That's why UKIP students is incredibly important for the future, because these people will be running things in maybe 10, 20 years' time. So basically, at the moment, it's a solid hegemony of the left, solid, all the way through. And we are the only people, really, because I include the Tories in that, actually, we are the only people really standing up in universities to this increasing pressure of lack of free speech. So I think that I would absolutely encourage the growth of that throughout all of our colleges. So it started off small, but it's a future that is extremely important.
Thank you.
I pretty much agree with everything that Peter has said. I do think we need to talk about university student fees. The reason we need to talk about it is because we can see. Use our common sense. From a political perspective, let's use our common sense. How many voters did Labour attract? We all know it was nonsense. And I'm not suggesting we sell nonsense. I'm suggesting that we learn from the fact that so many people were attracted to Labour's policy of free university education. And frankly, I think if they're a decent degree, I'm not talking about underwater basket weaving here, I'm talking about real degrees, law degrees, medical degrees. We need to encourage our young people to do this. And if you're going to put them into a lifetime of debt, then why would they do it's obvious that you're discouraging. So we need to talk about that, and we need to come up with a good policy which lets people go to university and study real degrees.
By the candidates there, but our policies have to be attractive they've got to be attractive for the younger people to be interested in us. And our education system is infiltrated, I'm afraid, by sorry sir, shall I continue? Right. Is actually infiltrated, but very much with a left-wing agenda. There's no doubt about that, in universities and right down to the schools. And I think it's a job of UKIP and the UKIP leader, or even the elected representatives, to actually try and go and talk to people within the education system and to try and break through some of the bias. The policies we have, that you would receive grants for real degrees, for real useful degrees, such as your science, etc., is brilliant. But I also think we should look towards opening up polytechnics and offer apprenticeships and offer some real grassroots education as well, and stop making the people feel the youngsters who can't take a degree, don't let them feel worthless. You give them something to actually work for in a polytechnic as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
I would appoint a spokesman for youth affairs, and also I have, which you can see on the website, it's better to go there to see how it works, but I want to see a specialist advisory group supporting each spokesman. So these would be people with particular expertise who would apply, and there would be a transparent recruitment process to bring them in as subject matter experts to support the spokesman on the portfolio, whatever it might be, defence, education, healthcare. And I would like to see one of those people as a young member of the party. That way they start to learn how the internal workings and policy development and politics of a party develop. But you know what? Something that applies not only to young people, but people of all ages, is that it should be interesting and it should be fun. And I think that we all need to learn how to do that at branch level all the way up. Our conferences should be fun, our national conferences and our branch meetings should be fun.
Yeah, I absolutely agree again with everything that's been said before, particularly our universities. And our university sector is too large, it's about 50%. And so many people come out at the age of 21 worse off and more stupid than when they went into the age of 18. You know? Which unfortunately is why a lot of them support Labour. It's not a very sensible thing to do. You know, and if we got those 30% of people who shouldn't be doing gender studies courses but should actually be training to be nurses or plumbers or electricians, so they have a real job, real skills, real responsibility in life, I think they'll have much more responsibility over their own life and much more common sense and would vote UKIP. But we do need, there's a lot of things that we do need to do. We need to get into new media. Look, 2 years ago, we had 2.5 million people following us on Facebook. Now it's about 500,000, so we've lost 80% of our Facebook followers. We need someone to work in new and social media. And we've got to do the hard graft as well, going into universities and schools. I've done that, and it's good, and people like UKIP after I've spoken to them.
I'm going to apologise to my fellow candidates. They've heard me say this twice before. At the Yorkshire hustings, I spent the entire time talking about why we should be mining the asteroid belt. I also touched on some of the technologies that are going to revolutionise the economic potential of the solar system. And the audience looked extremely stunned and unmoved. I have never dug a hole for myself so deep in a hustings, apart from when I was in London and I forgot what I was supposed to say next. However, one of the audience came up to me afterwards. He was the youngest person there, and he said, "Aidan, you've got my vote. I've been on that magnetoplasma rocket with you since I was 14, and I know exactly what he meant."
Did you want to say something very quickly, Andrew?
It's hard to follow Aidan's wit. I'm glad to tell you, as we've had endorsements galore today, most of the YIs are supporting John. Virtually all the regional secretaries of YIs are supporting John. But the question we've all got to ask is, why are young people not attracted to UKIP? We have to make our party interesting for them and make the party worthwhile for them so that they know that their hard work and their activity is genuinely pushing the party forward. That is why the membership must be empowered. No backroom deals, no stitch-ups. The members must control the party.
Thank you. Right, I'm going to give you one last yes-no from Carol Ward in Kingston. Do you think postal votes should be stopped except for disabled people? Yes or no?
Yes,
Lovely.
yes.
Now, to keep the time, I think this is important, so I want this question from James Riley of Esher and Walton. What plans do you have for strengthening the defence of the country, and in particular, how would you counter the terrorist threat? So, it's Henry's turn to start, please.
In the reverse order, one of the horrendous things that's happened is that our law enforcement, organised crime, intelligence network has pretty much been dismantled. Because that is the backroom, unseen function that has suffered from policing cuts. I would remove the intelligence budget and parts of the foreign aid budget, which we're going to deal with anyway, out from the defence budget. So you're bringing up the defence budget to a real 2% immediately. And you need a strategic defence review to follow on from that before you start allocating funding beyond that. Because the present defence review is not fit for purpose to my mind. It's a difficult question to answer, partly because of the timelines involved. We're building two types of new naval surface vessel, combat surface vessel. One of them will be going to sea for about 2 years without its main armament. Procurement is a massive problem.
Right, David.
Yeah. I think we've been talking about this for years as UKIP, and we've been the party of common sense on this. We should stop spending money abroad on wasteful things like the EU, like the overseas development budgets, on wind farms, and we just spend £10 billion in subsidy on the world's largest offshore wind farm in the North Sea. Not many people know about that on HS2, and putting money into defence and into our police force. We need to put back those 20,000 police that the Conservatives have cut, but also increase it because the population's been increasing. Even if you put back 20,000, that's not going to be the same number of police per head as we had before. And we do need some more armed police. It's not what I would like to say, but the threat of terrorism is so great in some places, such as Birmingham, London, East London. We've seen that in Manchester. We need to deal with it. We also need to beef up our border force. It can't be right that we've only got 3 tugs patrolling 6,000 miles of our coastline. It's ridiculous, and people are coming in, dozens a night, I believe, on dinghies across the Channel and the North Sea. So we'll sort it out. I'll sort it out. Thank you.
Obviously, we've got to increase our spending, probably up to maybe, I'd go even further, to 4% of our GDP. I think it's important that we have to have a nuclear deterrent. And in practical terms, this means that renewing Trident. There's no way around that. But and I think we should be building a new defence technology and updating things within the UK, particularly when we get some more of our funding back from the EU and we're free from the EU's defence procurement rules. On the subject of meeting our NATO commitments, I would propose a chunk of the foreign aid budget is given to defence, particularly to address recruitment and retention, and we need to increase our heavy artillery again. And we need to stop the policy of training foreign troops when we have soldiers here in the UK actually double jobbing. We need to be training our own troops. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Anne-Marie.
Shall I tell you why I'm a far-right racist fascist? Shall I tell you this? Because we must close the borders to the greatest threat that Western society has known for generations. We must close the borders to it. You can't even say so. You can't even say so. We need to grow the hell up. We need to grow up. We need to grow up. You can have all sorts of anti-terror measures, but if your migration continues to allow millions and millions, and I'm talking Europe-wide here, millions and millions of people, potentially, and actually in reality, from societies which are completely incompatible with ours, from societies which hate ours, they are going to attack us. Grow up! Grow up! It's real! It's real! We have got to deal with this. Number 1 is closing the borders. Number 2 is dealing with the mosques. We have got to close down mosques which are preaching anti-Western violence. Close them down. Grow up! Grow up!
Well done. Peter.
Certainly, I think when it comes to terrorism, and our security, there just simply isn't the will, I believe, amongst the government and the people who should be keeping us safe to keep us safe.
They're all bought and paid for.
I think it is, the basic problem is, obviously it's been said, is that we have a situation where, although we are not part of, mainland Europe, that is fortunate in one way, we are basically in a similar situation where we have incredibly porous borders, and there is simply not the will, actually, to confront this and actually make it better. That is the problem. That is why we are so important. We have got to say to people, who is looking after you? Who is looking after you? Which party is looking after you? Because the idea that the Tory party is still the party of law and order and defence, that is long, long gone. We've now got an army that would fit into Wembley Stadium with 10,000 seats still available. It is extraordinary. We've got to have the will again to protect our people.
The question was about defence. If Pakistan were taken over by a radical Muslim lunatic, it would be our defence service that would have to defend us. If North Korea were to decide we were part of an American conspiracy, it would be our armed forces that would have to defend us. Now, I think that we should increase defence spending by 25 billion. That would take us on a par to Russia. It's similar to what Jane said. And I've got a number of detailed proposals for how to do that. But the big thing about increasing the defence spending by 78% is that would it allow us to revolutionise the technology of our defence forces. And that is what I propose we do. And unlike my rivals, I would ensure the government could afford to spend that money on defence.
Thank you. Right, we've now come to the end of our session, and I started at one end of the alphabet. And now, ladies and gentlemen, these wonderful candidates, I'd like you to give them all a big round of applause for all the time. They are very tired. Each one of them is, starting with Andrew for Ben, please, is going to tell you in 1 minute or preferably less why you should vote for them.
I thought you said Ben, it's John Rees.
Sorry, John, I do apologise.
That's okay. Yes, September 2017 is make or break for UKIP. We may either elect someone safe and predictable, our last ever leader, before total fragmentation occurs. Someone who will ensure a slow but sure fading away into total political ineffectualness and irrelevance. Or we may take the risk and do something surprising, something revolutionary. We elect a leader whose platform for the party will immediately identify UKIP as the greatest threat to the security of the liberal elite. But count the cost, ladies and gentlemen. If JRE is elected, he will not play it safe. He will never emasculate his message so as to become accepted by the political class and liked by the mainstream media. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. David, why should this not vote for you? 1 minute now.
In the last election, we didn't do very well. We know that. In 2015, nearly 4 million people voted for us. And that was not including the millions who didn't because they were worried about Corbyn, not Corbyn, Miliband and Sturgeon. And there are millions of people in 2017 who really wanted us to do well, but who voted for someone they didn't really want to keep out someone that they were extremely worried about. Millions voted for Conservative to keep out Corbyn. Millions voted Labour to keep out Theresa May. There are millions of people just waiting for us to get together, to get our act together and get back on the pitch and play. Brexit is a key, but also what kind of country we're going to be in the future is the key. You need a leader who's going to be good on the media, who will speak into our key issues, and I've said them before. You may have seen me a couple of days before the election on BBC Newsnight, surrounded by a hostile audience and holding my own for UKIP. I spoke about Brexit, immigration, housing, all the issues, and I will be that person who does it well for you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, obviously the decision you make in the next few weeks is a critical one for the party, but I'd suggest it's a critical one for the country for the reasons I said right at the beginning. This party and the country needs a leader that can actually plan, that organise, mobilise and actually face the British media, the British politicians that you all know that have this national profile and do absolutely nothing with it. Confront them with credibility and actually take them to task. You'll have a look at the sheet that's in front of you, have a look at my website, you can see what I've done. I've negotiated agreements, security agreements across borders in other regions of the world, with the Russians, with the Americans, with NATO. I've got a huge diplomatic core of experience there, and that's why I'm here. I am here because I want to help my country, our country, and the best way to do it is to contribute my skills to leading this party so that we can lead Britain.
I've been in UKIP 14 years, but I'm not an establishment candidate. I am now the head of a team, and I'm a team player, and it's a team that wants to see UKIP survive, because UKIP has to continue to push the political agenda of this country. We have to leave the EU, and the 17.4 million people who voted to leave, it's our job, everybody's job in this room, to make sure they get what they voted for. Ladies and gentlemen, I want my country back, and I also want my party back. And I think it's very, very important, because this is going to be the most important election you will ever vote for in UKIP. And you've got to get the right person, because I want UKIP to survive. You vote the wrong person in, UKIP will actually cease to be. It's a long, hard fight we've got to get back to where we were in 2015 with some of the pollings that we got. But you know, I know people can do this, and I'm up for the fight if you are.
Thank you, Jane. Anne-Marie, what should this not vote for you?
Let me tell you something. I'm not here for the party. I love UKIP, but I'm not here for the party. I'm here for the country. We have got to remember the country. You will hear constantly about what we must do with the party, what we must do. But who cares? The public is never going to care what you've done for the NEC. They care what you're going to do for them. And that's what we need to hear. But by the way, we need to get out there. I went up to, let me give you an example. I went up to Sunderland. Do you know the Justice for Chelsea campaign? I went up to Sunderland and actually stood and listened to people who were being abused, who were being raped in the streets by the migrants who are coming into this country. This is where we need to be working. This is the people we need to be talking about. Stop talking about politics and start talking to the actual people who are paying the taxes to run this country. Enough. I've had enough of PC. I want actual people power. Actual people power. And that is what I will stand for. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, UKIP could have been made for me in the sense that everything that it's always stood for is what I have always believed. And you know, when I'm often sort of speaking at a UKIP conference or on the media or whatever, I often think of my parents, no longer here, but they would have been utterly UKIP people because they were working class people and they were originally Labour. They went over to Thatcher like a lot of people did in the 80s, right? But they were people with a very strong sense of social equality, but they were utterly patriotic. Being British was part of their character. They talked about we, not I. We. Well, we don't do that, or that's what we've always done. That is what I am unapologetically. I'm a we person. This is the only party that even understands that, what I'm talking about there. You all understand what I'm talking about. When it comes to a leader, I'd say this: you need someone that you can be proud of, is someone who can inspire you. I hope to be able to do both of those things if you'll come with me. Thank you.
Aidan, sock it to 'em.
I'm the most painful candidate for you to vote for. And the reason is because I would change the party most. It is my belief that my rivals are only going to change the clothing. And although I totally agree with Anne-Marie that it is the country that matters, nonetheless, if we are eviscerated, we cannot save the country. And therefore we do have to save ourselves. And we have been eviscerated already. We do absolutely have to change. And I would change us. And I'm confident that you are able to choose the candidate who will most change UKIP and bring us victory in the end.
Thank you. Right, that's it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're just a little bit over 9:30. Now, before you get up and dash away, I see two delightful young ladies at the front here have the purple buckets. So if you could let them make their way to the doors, and I hope that on your way out you will show your appreciation for this evening's wonderful event by please giving a generous... Are you doing it?
It's already been done.
It's been done. I thought you were doing it. Right. In that case, take care, drive safely, vote wisely. Thank you.
Could I just ask you to hold for a second? Our chairman at the beginning thanked you all, thanked the candidates, thanked all the helpers. Can we now thank the chairman?